Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting week of Bachelor Talk with Brock and Jack and Laufey. So this week, obviously, we had the conclusion of the Jasenia MJ 2-on-1, which went more or less as expected. We had a group date with Piper. Or not a group date, a one-on-one with Piper. A group date, which thank God Matt stepped in and became the adult. And then a one-on-one with Katie that I haven't fully dried my tears yet about. But we'll start at the beginning as Laufey departs. What'd you think about the opening of the episode, sort of the 2-on-1 setup that we had?
Yeah, I mean, it went exactly how I thought it was going to. I was actually kind of expecting him to just talk with the two girls while they were sitting at the same table and listen to them bicker. But then again, I think that would just brought Jasenia's stock down a lot. Granted, I still think it's already going down. Anytime there's a 2-on-1, it's not going to bode well for the other girl. Although I have other thoughts on that later. But I think the big thing was, I mean, we went in there, we saw MJ just go full crazy eyes. She was off the rails. Anytime Jasenia tried to say anything, she was just cutting her off, and just making a fool of herself. And I really hope that when Matt was walking in, all those times he heard, some of the things that were being said, because, I mean, if you look at just the things that, were said to him when he was talking with MJ on the side, he was talking with Jasenia on the side, I mean, they seem genuine from what Matt has seen. I mean, he doesn't see all the confessionals and all the things that we see on TV, but I don't know. I feel like Matt probably heard something, or I don't know. It didn't seem like he was going to drop MJ, and then he did. Thank God. I mean, the audience was like, "Oh, okay, good." From what we've seen, this makes sense. But from what Matt saw, it doesn't really make sense. He could have just let them both go into the rose ceremony and just kind of go from there. But
no, and if you remember last week's show, I kind of almost thought we were going to see that.
Yeah.
But you're right. It puts Matt in a tough position, and they certainly kept us guessing with the way that was edited, with him constantly, that's all I've ever seen from you, MJ. I've seen this, I've seen this, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Really making it seem like
There's
wasn't
something there, and then all of a sudden dropped. Like, okay, Matt.
Well, and I think there was
what are you doing
probably
here, bud?
I think there was probably a level of realization from Matt. He just, obviously the edit there drags it out to keep us guessing and maybe make us consider for a couple seconds that MJ wasn't going to disappear. But obviously she had to go.
Oh, yes, obviously. I don't know. That might have been the producers just pulling some strings, or maybe telling. I hope somebody said something to Matt behind the scenes like, "Hey, you're gonna need to drop this one." Cause, I mean, the producers do have some say. Matt has absolutely no clue what's going on, I'm sure someone's gonna help him out.
I mean, when we get MJ in this, I think, crying and saying, "Oh, well, that was a weak bitch moment, but I'm back." And she puffs out her hair and goes, "Oh, I forgot who I was for a second." And it's like,
yeah,
you don't
crazy.
need to convince us. We know you're insane. We know
We're aware.
We know that you're a bad bitch. That I don't know. I think.
Well, there's our censoring on YouTube. Thank you very much.
I think that we got more or less exactly what we expected there. Unfortunately for the rest of the girls, we skip straight to the rose ceremony. He calls it on the cocktail party because of that.
Yeah, it really. I think when he does that, I mean, granted, he should have his mind fairly set up. You would think, making these life impacting decisions. 1 or 2 hours shouldn't really impact a whole decision. So
no, I agree.
I'm always fine with these cocktail parties being skipped, but obviously it puts, it might put some of these women at ease. In the fact that there was like, well, I gave it my all. To the very end, I was able to, put it all out there, and hey, if I'm going home, I'm going home. But they're always
Yeah,
when these
we
cocktail
always get the
parties are canceled, they're a lot of times filled with regret. I'm like, oh, what could have happened at that last cocktail party?
and you know what? I wonder how much of that, like you said, they're filled with the regret. I wonder if other than that they mean anything, because you do get the girl, well, I would have liked to make a difference. I think that me being at the cocktail party would have made a difference this week. I missed out on that time. It's like your 8-minute conversation with him was going to change how he picked in this rose ceremony. I
Yeah, see,
I
I never believe it. I never think the cocktail parties really mean anything except for just more TV value. Because if anything, it's room for you to lose stock. That's all what they're there for.
yeah,
It's like, okay, this is one more chance for you to mess up
I don't
this
know how many
week.
people have
Can you
ever.
do it?
And here's another note for you, sweetheart. If you're only here because you pled your case in the rose ceremony, you're not going the distance. Not at the halfway mark. If you need those last 8 minutes to convince him you should be there, it's too late. So we
Yeah.
go into the rose ceremony and sort of the showdown that we have framed. And I will say, in comparison to previous weeks, this didn't have the same feel. But they tried to prop up Serena C versus Katie. Because Serena
And a
C,
little bit with Ryan as well. I mean, you even see that
I mean, Ryan was
Serena
we had
C is right in front of Ryan.
yeah we had
And
crying
granted, there's
Ryan.
nothing
Ryan was
between them,
upset,
but
but I don't know that it felt like an either or. And I think that the producers pushed. I think that the edit tried really hard to make it seem like this was a Serena C or a Katie, which I think is something that Serena C completely made up on her own.
yeah, she really did. Um, I don't know. And honestly, I think there was so much, BS brought up with Katie that, Matt threw her under the bus. She would have gone completely, scot free, right through it all. She I mean, she didn't drop any names. When she told Matt all the things about like, oh, there's drama
No, and
going
I
on in the
think
house, like,
and I think it's
lock it
wild.
down.
Looping back to the beginning there, I think it's wild that Jacinia got dragged up in that before
Yeah,
Katie did. And
yeah,
Chelsea had a point that where these little fires were Katie kind of followed. Now she was obviously in the right for doing what she did, and I completely support and back Katie 100% through all the stuff that
not
she
Twiggy.
did. I mean, quite obviously, I'm a big fan of Katie,
Really?
but at the same time, when your name is constantly in that conversation, it starts to look a little tough. Like how many times can you be there at the crime scene before we start to wonder if you're up to something? Now I don't think that was the case, but I think from Matt's point of view and from Serena's point of view as well. Again, I think Serena was full of crazy sauce calling Katie out like that, but at the same time, I do get her point in that listen, Katie, you want to be the mom of the house. You want to cover all these bases. You want to make sure everybody's in line, protect the ones who need protecting. That's fine, but that's you worrying about things other than Matt. Now, do I tend to think that maybe if you're living with all these people, the route that Katie took is the more honorable one? Of course, because again, I don't think Matt's shit. I'm out on Matt. I sold Matt last week in our thing.
You sure
Could
did, and
not
I still think you're
could
perfectly
not
right
be
on that.
happier with that sell right now. I frickin' hate this guy. He is
Well,
so
I mean, that's a strong word.
he
He's
is
just kind of
so
boring.
he's so unbelievably dull at this point. Every time I appreciate that. Oh, I get that. He tries to find these connections with girls that just
Eyes
may or may
open while
not be there.
kissing. It doesn't help.
Yeah, I know you have an issue with the eyes open kissing. We're going to be diametrically opposed on that until the day I die. But anyway, we go to the rose ceremony. There's some points about Matt that I'd like to bring up later as far as it comes to forcing relationships with these girls that maybe just aren't there. But we'll get to that. So we go to the rose ceremony and we drop 3 girls. We lose Crying Ryan, who we already mentioned. I'm giving Trump nicknames to these people.
Try.
Um,
Well, let me try with one. Let me try with one.
oh, this is
Who
gonna
who
be
else
terrible.
left? It was Brittany
Maggie.
and Maggie. Uh,
Don't
Nope,
try and do.
nope. I'm not even gonna try it.
Yeah,
Nope,
don't try it. Don't try a Trump
whenever
one
I
with
come up
Maggie
with
because it's
nicknames,
not going to be
it
good.
only goes bad.
Yeah, you could maybe with Brittany.
Eat out of here. Eat the out of here.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we said it was a bad idea, and yet you continued.
I tried. Hey,
You
at
could probably
least
do it with
I
Brittany.
tried. Mm,
Or
be
not.
gone, Brittany. I don't know. Nope.
All right.
I'm
Anyway,
not good at this stuff. I wasn't good at improv. Why am I on this show?
that's a hell of a question I asked
You should
myself.
call Raul next week on Brock and Raul talk The Bachelor.
Wouldn't that be interesting if we just replaced you with a charismatic Latin man and didn't say a word about it?
You know what? He's got a good head of hair.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good transition.
It would be remarkably noticeable, but we wouldn't acknowledge it. Raul, if you're watching,
Just the tip.
let me know. We're gonna do this. We're gonna put out a Friday episode and not tell Jack.
Oh shit.
We'll still do this show and we'll see which one does better numbers, and then you and Raul can do one and we'll see if I'm the problem.
You've got the good speakers. You really can't beat that.
Yeah. I'll produce for you and Raul.
Jack's wonderful speaker. Brock's fantastic.
This is a
one.
microphone, which might be your first problem.
I mean, this one disconnects very easily.
Yeah, let's not do that. I swear, if this messes everything up.
It won't.
Okay, anyway. So we lose Ryan. Who cares? She was new. We saw her for like 10 seconds. Wasn't a huge fan.
Yeah, had a short conversation with Matt. Seemed meaningful, but yeah, the connection wasn't there.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to be lasting. She just wasn't really going to make the cut.
She'll be okay. She's one of those who was distraught about the cocktail party. It's like, you've been here for 2 weeks. It ain't happening, sis.
Yeah.
We also lose another one of the new girls, Brittany. She was an escort, allegedly. She stuck around just long enough.
Allegedly.
Easy now. Yeah, let's not get into anyway.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
Mr. Jefferson.
All right, I don't even know where you're going with this, but I'm getting
South
away
Park,
from
Michael
it.
Jackson
I'm leaving as
episodes.
fast as fucking possible, Jack. So we lose Brittany, whatever. She's gone. She stuck around just long enough to create some drama. Then we lose Maggie, and let me tell you, she's about as cool as it gets. For someone who's leaving this deep into the game,
Yeah, she's like, you know what? This
of
is
love.
a great opportunity. I'm like, wow.
I got a lot of love.
You are still the most genuine human being on the
I'll
face
find
of
my
this
person.
planet.
She's not worried, and she shouldn't be. She's great. She's sweet.
Yeah.
I think she's another one far too smart for Matt.
Oh, yeah. And
far too
Dare put
mature.
it very well at the beginning of this season. He said, you know what? I'm picking Maggie, but you know what? She's probably not going to win. But I'm picking her because she's great. She's a great person.
She's a good
and
hang.
she's way too good for this. I'm like, yeah.
She's a glue guy. Great locker room presence.
Yeah.
You love to have her around. But she's not going to go
just
the
too
distance.
good for this. Yeah.
You know, it's the final cut in Miracle. Don't read too much into it. You're one of the guys who got us here. We can only take 20 to Lake Placid. I mean, those are just the rules. So Piper goes on the one-on-one, and I hated this one.
Yeah, because I think
was...
it could have gone, one of several ways. Me myself, I love amusement parks, but if I'm sitting there eating cotton candy and I'm doing these spinny rides, it's like, geez, you could really get nauseous and just throw up, and it could be an absolutely horrendous night. And that's probably what it would be for me if I was in that situation.
That aside, the fact that it's just two of us in the middle of the woods.
Oh, she was about to get murdered.
Now, don't get me wrong.
Like, no joke, she was like probably thinking like, you know what? If this is the way to go out, at least a hot guy will kill me.
Now, listen, don't get me wrong. When they did the little carnival day for Tayshia with her hometown thing with what's-his-face's cousin, and they did the carnival thing, and that was hokey and just stupid and looked like they made it out of cardboard for a 5th grade class project. That was stupid. This is on the opposite end of the spectrum. We don't need 87 stuffed animals. Like, this felt...
And the one that she picked, it did not look like there was any other of that kind. That's not how carnivals work. They have 50 of everything, not one little item that's supposed to catch your eye.
And what kind of a rinky-dink amusement park doesn't have a single Looney Tune? or something like that. No license? Really, ABC? We couldn't get the license? You're owned by goddamn Disney. Get me a stuffed frickin' Elsa up there or something, please.
Yeah.
I don't know why I jumped straight to Frozen.
Brock, let it go.
I'm Alpha,
Bad
you're
joke.
Anna, let it go, bitch.
I'm Elfo, you're Anna.
No, Elfo is a Netflix character. We can't go there. It's from Disenchantment.
Yeah, that's true.
She was
what a
Elpha.
Great show. Did she say Alpha? Yeah.
Elpha.
It definitely wasn't Elsa. That's
No. That was the point. She was saying she was the Alpha, and you're Anna. And then halfway through, to her credit, she realized Elpha and Anna sounded like Elsa and Anna. So let it go, bitch. It was really... Listen, we could give her shit all day long. That was one of her better lines. It was crafty. I enjoyed it.
I don't know. I still don't think I can give her credit. It was just so bad.
Listen, if we're going to shit talk the sayings, fine. But that one there, credit where credit is due.
Okay.
I'm coming in.
It is given Brock credit only.
Team Victoria on that one.
What?
Anyway, so we go to this
here,
piece of shit carnival, and we set it up in the middle of the woods, and we make it like it's a surprise. It's just weird to me. I don't enjoy... Like, I like roller coasters. I don't enjoy that crappy-ass rigged carnival game bullshit. Like, I don't need that in my life. Like,
I completely agree. And while watching it, like the entire time, we was sitting there with Sarah and her sister, and all we could talk about was, Cedar Point's a lot better than this crap. It's like, this is nothing. This is just rinky-dink things put together.
It's not an amusement park. It's a carnival. It's the traveling group of felons and sex offenders that comes through small towns every spring. But it wasn't even the good ones. They set up in a public parking lot. You really look at that guy who's tightening the bolts, wondering exactly if his parents were first or second cousins or maybe even siblings. And then you go around and...
You have thought way too into this, my friend.
Listen, you ever see the carnies who roll with the moving carnivals? I'm being nice.
I mean, they're always villains in detective TV shows. So
again, they travel from town to town.
They always are the killer.
Listen, it makes a lot of sense.
It does.
But yeah,
they didn't even have a power tower where they would go up and he'd be holding her hand and she'd be like, "Oh my gosh!"
Tough to get that. You can't fit that on the back of a truck. No, this was a carnival that you go to when you're in junior high and you're wondering, it's a nice time. You're gonna be out. You're gonna be unsupervised. This was a junior high fucking date. And I hated every second of it. And it's over. It's over. So we go into the end of the evening, which is the dinner and all that stuff. And Piper talks about her need for affirmation, those words of affirmation, because she doesn't get that with her family. And Matt, of course, anytime somebody mentions a family that's not functioning fully fucking properly, oh yeah, I totally relate to that.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, I have a story.
Yeah, my dad never told me he loved me either. That's because you never frickin' met him. But, so that's the type of shit every single date we get, and it's getting old. And that's why I say Matt is dull as hell. Listen, he had he had one good song. When he did it with Brie on the first one-on-one, I was like, oh my goodness, look at this, deep connection. But he just keeps playing the hits. He's like George in The Wedding Singer when he only knows... the one song, and he just keeps repeating it, and they come out and they're like, hey, you got to come in here, they're turning on George. He's George right now, and he just keeps rolling it back.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I don't know. I think
play the hits.
I think he's got the same lines that he's just like, okay, if I play the same lines with everyone, then everyone's on equal playing field, and I can just compare all of their reactions, which is the stupidest fucking thing he could possibly do.
Which, you know what? If you phrase it like that, I'm fine. I'm gonna throw the same shit at every girl. That way,
yes, but it makes nothing personal.
But yeah,
it's like then you can mathematically compare. But mathematically comparing a bunch of romantic relationships is not how you find your wife.
You're right. There's no personal touch to it. It just feels like we're getting cookie cutter Matt. He's parroting things that he thinks he should say in relationships.
And once again, I wish I would have sold him last week like Brock. It makes perfect sense.
And this is skipping ahead a second, but when we get the Tyler Cameron speech in here, and he says, hey man, just go out there and be yourself. That's why we all like you. It's like, oh, good thing you rolled in a close personal friend to give you that fucking gem. And that's kind of the level of depth we're getting from
I don't want real Matt. Real Matt's boring.
That's the level of depth we're getting from Matt, and everyone associated to him is reading frickin' fortune cookie goddamn front page of Teen Vogue relationship advice. And quite honestly, I'm over it. I'm far more interested. They keep asking for seniors for casting. I'm way more interested in that because you're going to get some people in their 50s who walk into those rooms and go, okay, this is horse shit. I've been divorced 7 times, and I know that this is a crock. And I look forward to that refresh. We were supposed to get that with Claire. Fucking didn't. But now we get Matt, who's reading just the back of a fucking God knows what shitty ass novel about he was himself and she loved him. I can't get over how annoying I find this guy. And I mentioned last week that it seems like the producers are making it more about the girls than him. And they could not be more correct in that decision. These people are smart. They're good at their job. I was never questioning that they had that right.
Yeah. I don't even really have much to comment on that. It's just, I don't know. It's
So then,
just getting boring.
now also, we had the lame ass fucking carnival. This episode is really just a series of things that I cannot stand in dates.
I mean, they're just shortening every single day. And dates used to be a full day, used to be a full outing. They would do stuff in the morning, in the middle of the day,
And I
at
think
night, and it seemed like that's how Breeze was, that's how Serena Pease was. And then we look at these last couple, like, Rachel, Kit, Piper. I mean,
yeah,
like,
they're dinner
it's
dates.
pitch black out by the time these dates are starting. It's like, yes, this is fall, sure.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, so that means these are starting at 5 p.m. That's still much later than anything we normally ever see.
Yeah, they're really getting shallow. And we end this one with maybe the most awkward and potentially my least favorite thing that they do in these dates is the little concerts.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's a band
It's
you've never
so
heard of.
uncomfortable.
Like Matt trying to pretend that he was a huge fan of Temecula Road while struggling with the pronunciation of Temecula. It's like, yeah, it was great. They were beautiful singers. The single acoustic guitar is a nice touch. But it is awkward as fuck to be 2 people dancing all alone in front of these 3 people. I don't get it.
I was sitting
I
there
don't
watching
like
it. I was like, okay, one, I've never heard of these people. And we're sitting there, and Sarah's sister's like, oh, yeah, I mean, they do kind of small stuff. I've heard of them. I'm like, what?
It's
I'm like,
yeah,
no, you haven't. I have never heard of these people. Like, they haven't had like a big name. They had like one with
well,
Peter,
I mean,
and that was it.
Peter,
And
they
that
had
was
what,
probably
they
the
had-
producers being like, oh, we know that like this woman's dated this singer, so we're gonna do that.
There was that. They had Lanco the one year, and I think Lanco had like a top 10 hit after
I
the
don't
show
even know
had been,
who that is.
Yeah, they had a hit that went big after the show had been recorded, so the producers got lucky on the timing with that one. But other than that, yeah, it's just weird. I don't like it. I find it awkward. I hated every facet of this date, top to bottom.
Yeah.
So then
Yeah,
we go
I'm
on
with you on
the group date, which was bowling.
I thought that was fun. I mean, I love bowling. I will never go for a fun, casual bowling date with my girlfriend because she was a high school bowler and will kick my ass. But we'll go bowling, but I'll make sure she has a few drinks in her so I have a good handicap.
Yeah, see, bowling, the fact that it's a sport where you can eat nachos at the whole time.
Oh, it's so fantastic.
Yeah, it's fantastic, but it tells you everything you need to know about bowling. Anyway, then we get into the dumbest, another stupid date trope that halfway through we should definitely be fucking over, and that is the loser goes home part.
I hate that
So
so
sick
much.
of it.
It's really it's an immature way for them to try to, give some girls time who don't maybe need it and take away from others and just the splitting up of the teams like okay, you have Rachel, you have Kit,
Yeah, Rachel, Kit,
Bree,
Serena
was
C,
it?
Bree, and Abigail were the ones who went.
Yeah, and like it's like okay, half of that team, like, three-fifths of that team, really didn't need a ton of time with Matt this week, and the other parts of them, like Serena C and Abigail, like they are desperate for time right now, and just it's so unfair to put these teams the way they were. It's like okay, you had some women with one-on-ones on each side and ones without.
And then
and
on the
that's
other
just
side,
very
you have,
detrimental to the
yeah, on the
process.
other side, you just have four. You have Michelle, Serena P, and Chelsea, who've all had one-on-ones. And then
Chelsea
you have,
hasn't.
and then you have Jacinia, who a lot of people would argue has had plenty of time this week.
Yeah, Chelsea didn't
Um,
have a one-on-one, right?
who's that?
Chelsea, she didn't have a one-on-one.
I thought she did, but I could be wrong.
I don't think so.
And she got a group date rose. I don't know.
She did. She got a group date rose.
I
Yeah,
thought Chelsea was doing fine. Anyway,
she's doing fine. Yeah, I'm not. I'm not worried about her. I think
so
she's doing well.
this is one where thank God Matt was the frickin' adult and he tells them to come back.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Granted, he probably could have told women like, "Hey," it's before they showed up. Like, instead they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? Oh, this is annoying." But it's like, what'd you do? You bowled a few pins better
yeah, it was like it
because
came down to like
Abigail
six.
butchered it. Like, okay.
Also, one team had four, one team had five. How did they do that?
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
I, I'm over it. I'm done. I could not give a fuck.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I guess we don't see a lot going on. Michelle gets all competitive. And Matt does that classic thing he does where he talks about the things that he likes about each girl and then
Oh,
doesn't
I
give them the
hate that
rose. It's
so
such a
much.
fucking tease. And I'll be
It
completely honest.
is.
Listen, I don't know if he came up with that by himself, but it's definitely something that the producers are going to force people to do from now on
I
because
thought it happened a little bit last season. I thought. I was
it is
told
just,
Tasha did it. I didn't really watch Tasha's season, but I heard that Tasha did that a little bit.
yeah, I mean it's a great way to kind of get you going in a couple different directions.
Make
Um
people think you're about to give them a rose and then not.
yeah, so then we get Serena C, who just looks kind of bitchy the whole time. Chelsea is struggling with time. They all are. So is Abigail. Jacinia seems to be doing okay. I think she got a little bit of reassurance the fact that she got to stay. Um, Michelle walks away with the rose. I think Matt and Michelle have some of the stronger chemistry in this. We saw that on the one-on-one right out the gate. Um, I think she's pretty safe here to make a deep run. Seems like she and Matt are just kind of pretty steady. There's not a lot of question there.
Yeah, I don't really think there's really anything to worry there. I mean, but I mean, she reminds me of Abigail if Abigail had been able to have a one-on-one right
Which
away.
I'm
It was
really
that
hoping.
super good connection right away. And it's like, okay, but then someone like Abigail still hasn't been given a chance with that one-on-one, that deep one-on-one like Rachel got. Like if Abigail had gotten something like that, someone who I mean, yeah, sure, it seemed like Rachel really hadn't been incredibly spoiled throughout her life, but geez, I think that would have put Abigail on just cloud nine. Just I mean, beyond what any of these other women had, with her disability, with her hearing, like being dressed up as like a princess and just having an all out just spectacular evening, like fairy tale evening. Like the fact that he hasn't given Abigail that is just cutting her short completely. And then having Michelle just walk in like, you know, one on one right away. It's just Abigail deserves better than Matt at this point. I don't think he needs to keep telling her like,
I
"Oh, you're great."
you know
It's
I said
just
in our opening episode that I didn't get the vibe from Matt where I wanted the good girls to run
yeah.
like I have in the past. I'm getting to that point now, and it's not necessarily good. It's not like he's a bad guy. He's just dull. He needs to
Yeah.
be with somebody who doesn't demand a lot out of conversation, not looking for a real
His conversation's
deep
too simple.
intellectual type of person, which is just fine. But I think that's where you lose. I think that's where you lose in Abigail. That's where I mentioned this a lot last week. I think that's where you lose Kit. He's too simple for her.
Kit, Moggy, Abigail. Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, I
Brittany
mean,
even seemed a little more of like an intellectual. I
just
mean, granted, talking with all these, wealthy gentlemen, it's like, oh, she's an escort. It's like, no, she probably just
you're
composes
well
herself
rounded. You've
well.
gained a personality. You're cultured in some degree.
Yeah. It's like, oh,
It's
no
just
wonder she left this week because Matt probably can't hold a conversation with her because she's too good for him.
and I think really you start to see a disconnect. They're playing different games. Um, so this leads us into 2 points here. I have a note in the margin that just says I hate Heather.
I feel that.
She's objectively gorgeous. I also hate her. I hate her.
She's got crazy eyes.
She's terrible.
There are it's so easy to pick out crazy eyes nowadays on TV, and
Yeah, HD
it's
is
just
not doing her
right
any
away.
favors.
It's just that smile just reminded me of Anna, because right when she was like, "Oh, I, was talking with Hannah," I'm like, I forgot that meant that was Hannah Brown, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, she's friends with Anna." I'm like, "Oh no
Also, what are
shit!"
the
I'm like,
rules
"Look at
now? If
that
you've
smile."
ever been on an episode of The Bachelor or Bachelorette, you get to
Just do
show
whatever
up
you
whenever
want.
you want to.
Yeah,
Are
it
those the
doesn't just
rules?
make you a celebrity automatically, apparently. In Tyler's case, apparently it did.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell people see in him. This is the first time I've really had a Tyler Cameron experience. I thought he was dumb as shit.
Yeah, no, my thoughts on him never really changed. I still think he's pretty dumb.
So we get into Katie's one-on-one. This was the one right beforehand. Tyler gives the, "Hey, be you, man. Don't have any regrets." Cool. Thanks, Tyler.
And when he's like,
Awesome.
"Oh, this process worked for Tyler, so like it can work for me." It's like, no, it didn't.
Yeah,
It didn't work for Tyler.
I'm no
He was
expert
out
here.
with Gigi Hadid. I think that's who it was. It's like, no, this didn't work for him.
Yeah, I'm no expert here, but I'm pretty sure Tyler's not married right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the one-on-one, it was cute. It was fun. It's everything that I think Katie is, and nothing that I think Matt is.
Yeah, having fun, like messing around. It's what she said she wanted in a partner, someone who could have fun, who could just, joke around. And then even at the dinner part at the end, she's talking about how like her like past relationships and stuff, and how she was looking for, they all failed because these people couldn't really have fun. And this was something we saw with Matt where he wasn't simply just boring. He was pretty fun, it seemed like, when they were in that studio behind messing with Tyler. That was funny. I don't think that was date worthy. I think that could have been a side thing. I don't think that should have been like the full date. That was a complete waste, and Katie didn't deserve that. But it did show that they could have a good amount of fun together. And the fact that Matt throws that away at the end by not giving her a rose.
Yeah, I think Katie's
that's
a great
ridiculous.
hang, but I think she goes on that list as well where she's going to need a little bit more out of a relationship than Matt can offer. And
yeah. Although I definitely think she was blindsided. I didn't think she had realized yet that she was too good for him, like everyone on TV has realized, especially you. But yeah. And that will bring us to our next section of Katie, the girl behind the Bachelor, behind the vibrator, and hopefully the next Bachelorette.
Yeah,
as we see on Brock's lovely chest.
I made an impromptu T-shirt. I've got Katie for the Bachelorette. Get behind the movement. I'm realizing now this camera angle and this shirt do not flatter me.
Why I'm wearing black.
Yeah, no, see, it looked really good in the mirror earlier, but I was standing and flexing. So anyway, Katie
yeah,
for
I'm
the
not,
Bachelorette.
and I can't.
That's what we're pushing now. Yeah, these T-shirts will not be on sale. I could hand make you one. They're all one of a kind. Katie Bachelorette.
I would remind all of our viewers that if you are receiving a shirt from Brock that says Katie for Bachelorette, be aware that these are used white male T-shirts.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
And they will all be pitted, especially the ones in the extra large size.
No, this one I think is a medium. Actually, it's a little stretch.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I'm trimming.
Brock's lost a lot of weight.
Anyway, so Katie for Bachelorette, join the movement. There's a hashtag out there. We're gonna try and get it trending.
I think she's too good for this process.
All right, listen.
I think she would really put a lot of the bullshit out of the house. She'd probably be searching for it. From what we've seen from her so far this season, well, throughout the season as she is gone now. But it's like, she'd probably be looking out. She'd be like, okay, who's got the BS? Where's the bullshit in the house?
Yeah.
Let's cut those guys out immediately and get on with it.
So then we go into the final cocktail party, and we get a quote from Jacinia, which is just designed to be super fucking wrong, where she says, "I think it'll just be a normal night."
Nope.
Here comes Heather in her white 2012 Dodge Grand Caravan.
That was that was weird. We were pointing it out constantly while we were watching. We're like, why the minivan?
Listen,
what's going on here?
Minivan's extremely functional.
Yes, but never buy a white minivan. It's like that's just never buy a white car to begin with.
I would like the record to reflect in college when Jack and I were rooming together, I was driving a white minivan.
Love that Windstar. Was it a Windstar?
Oh, it was a Windstar. That thing.
Oh, that was a classic.
Listen, say what you will. It put on a lot of miles. It did pretty well.
It got us to our inner tube-water basketball games. That's all that matters.
It did that. Got us skiing. It's made several trips to Florida. Couple of
surprisingly,
Texas.
minivans are great. I still am totally against white minivans.
Anyway, I also had a white.
And car. Heather.
Not the point. But Heather sucks. She rolls in wearing a white dress as long as we're going anti-white.
It's like a fucking wedding dress.
Is this the first time you've been anti-white?
Wow. And we've come full circle. Wow. Besides that, I think Heather showing up in a wedding dress type dress was a very bold move. I don't know if it boded well for her. I'm just still ignoring the fact that I've essentially been called. No, I'm not even going to go for it. So, yeah, I don't know. And I think it was very strange because, she knows that, she's been on The Bachelor before. She is one of those celebrity people who is going to be recognized. If the current Bachelor knows her or not, she walks in and Matt immediately is like, it looks like he's in tears, which was really weird.
He's laughing in tears. I didn't like it at all.
Poor Piper during this moment. And granted, she already had her one-on-one during the week.
I love Piper comes back to the group.
She said all week.
It just screams.
She hadn't seen it. Oh, yeah. She walks back in the group.
What the fuck? Just pissed.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I love it.
It was great. So the
Jinx! That was like a double jinx.
So the girls don't seem real thrilled to see Heather. And I mean, the promo for next week is basically just all they're mean
shitting
to Heather.
on Heather, as is fair. It's like, you know what? Just because you were in this show a while ago.
Hey Matt, if you didn't want him to bully Heather,
do whatever you want.
Hey Matt, if you didn't want him to bully Heather, you shouldn't have gotten rid of Katie. She's there to protect people. You got rid of her, so now guess what? Heather, welcome to the fucking hornet's nest. It's on.
Oh, she's done for.
Yeah, she's
like,
gonna have a real
these
tough
women are so mean. It's like, no shit.
Fucking
They've
cheated.
been here for weeks. Chris Harrison even said it. He was like, oh my gosh. He was like, we're very much through this process.
Yeah.
Like, Hometowns is in a couple of weeks. And we see that she's about to. I think she's gonna be in the next week. So if she's about to get a rose instead of some other women, it's like.
I'm hoping it's only as far as the next rose ceremony.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we're gonna see is it's probably gonna be, Matt choosing Heather as some final rose, as some you know what, this is a possibility. And I think even Tyler was saying, things blossomed at the end. Granted that she's coming in at the end, so that doesn't it's not really the same. But I think the big thing is going to be he's going to drop some women who he knows for a fact this isn't going to work.
And I think that's what we saw with Katie's one-on-one. Admittedly, Katie's great,
so giving
but
Heather a
it's a
chance
different type of relationship
that
he has
with the
rest.
Be with, it works.
Yeah. So that's kind of where the episode ends. Recap of it. Piper had a one-on-one I thought was weird as hell. The group date was stupid. He let Katie go, so he's stupid. Katie for Bachelorette. It's a movement. Get behind it.
Get behind it.
I hate Heather with a burning passion. Tyler Cameron is really dumb.
Yeah.
What the fuck, Heather's here. That's basically the episode in a nutshell. You could have skipped to now in the recap if you wanted the whole thing. I just did it. 25 seconds. Whole episode.
It was very boring. it wasn't fun.
No,
I
I
was
didn't
kind of
enjoy it.
hoping for it to end. Granted,
I
every time we get closer and closer to having the rose ceremony at the end of the episode.
There was a point
I'm
I'm
hoping give
so
it one or
used
two, we'll have it.
I've become so accustomed to the end sneaking up on us that I was like, "Oh, here's where we're going to get the surprise next week on The Bachelor." I looked down, it was we still had 45 minutes left. That's how
Yeah.
boring this episode was. So, hopefully next week brings a little more joy. Um Anything to add to this week?
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll be looking at our buys and sells of the week. The big thing for me when I'm looking at this, um, it's going to be there's a lot of stock to look at, and I don't know, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, last week, like you said, I sold Matt. I bought Jacinia thinking that we were going to get, a 1 week bump. Again, like I said, that if I'm day trading, I think Jacinia was a good buy. Um, I think I'm going to buy Abigail going into the next couple of weeks. And this is me less buying based on this week's performance and more me speculating going into next week. It's kind of do or die time. I think we're either going to get an Abigail one-on-one and this takes off, or she's gone. So I'm either going to lose everything or we're going to see some gains here. So Abigail's my buy, speculating to next week.
Yeah, I think my buy, well, I think when I bought Rachel 2 weeks ago, I think I'm still sticking with that, because I mean, so far with these weeks, especially this week, we've now seen 4 or 5 women say they're falling in love or falling for Matt, and he has still only said those exact words back to one singular woman, and that's Rachel. Um, I think the best reaction he's had in return that is lower than what he gave to Rachel was either to like Piper or Serena P. So I think, like, honestly, I'd buy both, but I think my big one might be Piper, just because there seems to be a lot more passion there, especially when he jumped into her confessional um,
Ooh,
last
yeah, I
week.
forgot
I
about
think,
that.
and the one-on-one this week, I think that was big for her. I think sometimes when you have a one-on-one kind of in the middle of the show rather than right at the beginning, like Serena P had, I think it can really,
You're
as long as you've
expanding
been
on
good in the
something,
group
yeah.
dates so far up to that one-on-one, I think you're in a really strong place. And I think Piper's a great choice for a good buy this week. So that brings us to our sells of the week. Brock, who's going to be your sell this week?
So this is a tough one for me, because we had some obvious villains in this, and some obvious ones who weren't going to make a run, and they're gone. I mean,
Yeah.
for me, it's got to be Serena C. And this isn't just me sticking up for my girl Katie. I don't understand where Serena C thinks that she belongs in this group anymore. I think that she has no connection with Matt. I think that she's getting petty and caught up in the bullshit, and I think that she's gonna be gone. Serena sees my sell.
Yeah, and I'll completely agree with that. And uh, for the sake of looking at somebody else who could be a potential sell, although I said I think she's doing perfectly fine earlier, I think Chelsea is someone to look at as a potential sell,
It's just not
mostly
expanding.
because
It's not growing.
it's not in a big thing that was an issue for her that she said this week was just hold on a little bit longer. Um, I have these barriers up. Just keep waiting.
Yeah, we're
It's like
we're
you
too
can't
late
ask
to play
someone,
the be patient card.
yeah, you're 2 weeks away from hometowns, um, according to what they said in the show. It's like, you really can't be um, asking this guy to wait. I mean, because then you look at what Katie had. She wasn't asking him to wait. She was trying to, open up to him or whatnot, and it's exactly what it seemed like she was doing on her one-on-one, at the dinner at the end. And if you compare that to someone like Chelsea, who's not really opening up anymore. She did a bit earlier on, where she got that group date rose, but I just don't see.
No,
a lot of advancing
there's no
there. So
group.
I would go
We've
with
hit a
selling.
ceiling.
Yeah, long story short, I'm going with a Chelsea for a sell.
All right. Well, those there again. It's not a hate sell. It's a
No.
wise market decision. I think that's the way you have to go.
Yeah.
So we'll
Unfortunately,
see
I think
going
she's
into
great.
next week how those play out. I mean, really, we're getting down to a lot of the girls that you made the joke last week that I was picking my team. And I don't know if you noticed, I did drop my personal Bachelor promo tape into the final YouTube cut.
It was
Um,
pretty great.
yeah, I know it's pretty fantastic. I'm going to continue to use that for years to come.
Of
Um,
course.
but we're running out of girls that I would pick for my team, which I think makes them perfect for Matt.
Yeah.
Um,
That's pretty fair. I think, his standards are pretty low. I don't think he's really looking for someone who is just, an intellectual, you know,
no, I don't. I don't
or
think that
or even
matches
a
him.
bombshell. I mean, like when because that was the first thing that he saw. I remember like
Oh,
Mari was the
Mari,
big
yeah.
the bombshell for him, and he let her go last week as well. So I think I'm not saying that Matt's looking for a dull woman to be his wife, but I just don't really think he's thinking very much. I
No,
think he's
he's
just like, oh, I don't know. It's strange. I would love to pick at Matt's brain. I think
yeah. It's tough for me to figure out what he
strange.
values and what he's looking for at this point.
That's exactly. Yeah.
So we'll hopefully find out more next week, especially with the Heather drama. We'll also see going forward if we circle back on Abigail and some of those other girls who we thought there was a connection with and now there isn't. And maybe we'll continue to explore into the sort of known avenues like Michelle and Rachel that we know he's been pretty good with.
And
Um,
Jasenia, it looks like in the promo she'll be getting a one-on-one during the daytime, mind you, which is different from what we've been doing. It looks like she's got some
yeah,
some some car test driving, little
yeah.
crash course stuff, and I think it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Um, Granted, the thing with Katie not giving the rose on the one-on-one, it's that type of season that we're in now.
Well,
It's
it's
to the point where
we're
these aren't
past the
guaranteed
halfway point.
roses.
We're past the halfway point. It's time for things to start to kind of get serious. There's no more exploring to find connections. There's
That's
only
exactly what they
deepening
said.
the
Yeah.
connections that are there. So, if you have nothing to add, I think that'll do it for this week. This
Yep.
is this has been Bachelor Talk with Brock and Jack. We'll be right back next week, as like we said, as we enter the second half of Matt James's season, and that dull bastard finds himself well on his way to hopefully finding love, whatever the hell that might look like. So thank you all so much for tuning in once again. For Jack
Thanks
over.
for all two of you. It's been a great time.
Thanks both of you for being such loyal supporters.
And
Have
that's
a
great
good.
because one of those is probably me rewatching this to hear how stupid I sound.
Yeah, it might be
Thank
me
you.
just going through and editing it as well. All right. Anyway,
That's
thank
fair.
you to both of you who might watch this later, maybe. See you next week.
Adios.
I close my eyes only for a moment, and the moment's gone. All my dreams pass before my eyes in curiosity. Just